Here are some quick facts. Enacted in October 2023, received royal assent, the UK Online Safety Act. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. Free speech and censorship. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, swears that there is indeed free speech. However, there's issues when it comes to surveillance and privacy, impact on encryption, and chilling effect on innovation. Smaller platforms may struggle with compliance costs, could consolidate power further to big tech, as smaller players can't afford risk or regulation. Risk to journalists' activities. Tools used to identify harmful content might flag legitimate journalism, satire, or activism. These are really big issues. Risks and safeguards for children. Stated benefits are those of age verification. Algorithms must not promote harmful content. Platforms must assess risk to children and design services accordingly, which many of them already do and still face a lot of trouble when it actually comes to child safeguarding. This is really, really important. The reason being is because age verification may require biometric data or ID, right? Fake sense of security that children still access harmful content via unregulated apps, right? So it's building this idea that, oh, it's okay because of, but where they are most at risk are going to be the places that don't care anyway. Does that make sense? It might not make sense. Let me give you an example, right? Some creep, some stranger, wants to target a certain group of people, right? Will censorship in one country stop them from accessing a VPN or Tor or anything like that? And I've heard so much about VPNs recently. It's just another risk altogether. A VPN does not 100% protect you from phishing attacks, from session hijacking, and other such infosec problems. So no matter who says it, even the black belt barrister could sit there talking about how a VPN will protect you. It won't. It will only do so much. And yes, they are a good thing. Plenty of VPNs do provide the service that is on the label. But don't believe the hype, the overconfidence in certain services, right? Broader potential risk is the normalization of government content moderation. And if anyone's heard of the Great Chinese Firewall, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah? If you haven't heard of it, you need to go over to China Fact Chasers, Laowai86 and Serpent ZA, right? And you need to watch their videos about social credit scores, about what happens in China when you have a low social credit score, and about how you will be shut out from paying rent, you will be shut out from buying food, you will be shut out of doing anything if you do not comply. And yet, it could have just been a joke you made on social media. Those are the dangers, right? Legal ambiguity. Platforms must balance UK law, human rights law, and international obligations. Confusions over what counts as harmful may result in over removal of content, so it affects content creators. directly. Those who are actually doing a good thing, those who are making documentaries or conducting scientific or social economic studies, right? It might put those people at risk of having their content banned. That's not fair. All because one tyrannical government here in the UK says, oh, no, 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 no. It's about child safety. Well, I'm a parent. It is up to the parents to interfere with what their children are doing on the internet. And I'm sorry to say, maybe not enough parents are doing that. Maybe not enough of them are prepared to have restrictions on certain things. Maybe not enough parents know how to access their router and add parental controls. You can't visit this, you can visit this, you know what I'm saying, right? You can do it on your Amazon Fire Stick, where you've got a PIN code to purchase things and watch things. Every time I pull up Disney Plus, I've got to type in my PIN code. It's Disney Plus. Come on. Look, I understand there is a need for online safety, but at the same time, as a parent, as a bit of a tech geek, I also understand that it's my responsibility to make sure my child is safe online. And that's it. That's the be all and end all. So the problem that I'm seeing, right, the child safety argument is basically a smokescreen made to, you know, confuse. And it's a smokescreen made of candy floss. Most of this horrible activity that none of us wants to, you know, admit exists, although it does exist, most of it doesn't happen on niche hosting content websites and adult websites. It happens on mainstream platforms like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, where the kids are active, right? These sorts of activities might be lurking over in the dark web, but the kids aren't. So these people need to come over to these platforms like Instagram, like Facebook, like TikTok, and they interact there. So it's up to these platforms, and should have been up to these platforms in the first place, to keep these people off of their platforms. You know, having certain words flag up is difficult because all of a sudden words change, you know, patterns of behavior change, and that I totally understand. It must be a complete ball ache, right? Small creators and small websites are the collateral damage, but so is the general privacy of the everyday person here in the UK. It creates a chilling effect that you are forced to hand over things that you wouldn't necessarily want to give to any stranger. And we don't know necessarily what these websites and platforms are going to do with your ID. There is no obligation for them to delete your ID. You know, we've had the T-app leak, right? And that poses it's a completely different topic, T-app, but it poses a complete example. There's the example of how things can be leaked because a database hasn't been locked down with a password. Now, if you want to know how to put a password on your MySQL database, please drop me a comment. I will upload a tutorial on how to do that because it can be done. It actually is a command line depending on what you're using. If you're using Adminizer PHP, you can enter a command with your password in the command line, and there you go. Your database is locked down. Now, there's different steps you can take to InfoSec, obviously, as well as online and offline InfoSec. Learning about it and showing an interest in it is becoming a necessity. You know, it's It's one of those things, if you don't know, you should know. You should get on YouTube and learn. There's a lot of great YouTubers out there with a lot of great content. Like, have you heard of Chuck? If you haven't heard of Chuck, go check out Chuck. I'll drop his channel in the description because it's really, really good. There's a lot of great content creators out there within the cybersecurity space who can explain a lot better than I can, because I'm not very articulated, but they can explain the process and how to avoid it. There's a lot of issues, obviously, surrounding this new Online Safety Act, but the issues and the benefits don't balance out. They really don't balance out. What can you do about it? What can we do about it? There is a petition online that you can sign. I will get the link to that, and I'll also leave that in the description below. It's really interesting to come across situations like this in history, but now history is repeating itself. Do you know, in Nazi Germany, the same sort of propaganda, suppression and censorship against the Nazi Reich ruling party at the time was implemented. If you spoke bad about the government, they would shut you down and say, oh, well, you know, you're horrible, right? There is a police team at the moment being set up here in the UK to monitor online activity, especially the online activity of far-right activism, which is kind of funny considering far-right used to mean like Christian conservative values, and now it somehow means fascism and racism, which confuses me. It boggles my mind, because within the same width and breadth of Antifa calling the far right Nazis, there is literally videos online. I don't know if you know the channel Israeli Advocate or whatever his name is. He's a British Jewish guy, and he has videos of him talking to Palestinian supporters who start, you know, saluting in a way that people did in 1930s, 1940s Germany. And it's very, very confusing. Who's left? Who's right? Who's this? Who's that? It's really silly to think that an Orwellian idea of, you know, changing the definition of words is actually coming into fruition. It's not fiction anymore, you know. Eric Arthur Blair, the writer, otherwise known as George Orwell, he wrote this book as a piece of fiction, but also stemming from his own experiences. And it's really interesting that he foreseen this, I guess you could say, because literally having a ministry of, you know, disinformation or information, whichever one you want to call it, that's a scary thing within itself. This new law could go one or two ways. It could be a great thing, but it could stop you from being able to know when something is happening and getting your family out in time. And when you look back at certain historical events, you'll notice that it's not the first time a government has disconnected themselves from the outside world and said to its own citizens, you cannot contact each other either. It's not the first time. And what happens after that is the scary part.